Hello. The topic today is an important one. It's about why positivity will not help you to end your suffering. This topic is important because we are told that the way out of our suffering is to not think the thoughts and to not continuously feel crappy in the way that we do. And so we have become a society that essentially rejects thoughts and feelings and moods in favor of thinking positive all the time, in favor of aligning with the idea of positivity as seen by somebody else all the time. I want to take a few minutes to address that today because this is what aggravates our suffering in life. Yes, you heard me right. When we try to be positive, what we do is we create a sense of rejection around our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And in fact, we are rejecting ourselves at the core for having those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Therefore, when we do that on a continual basis, we are creating an internal environment of distrust over our feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And this environment of distrust leads us to think that anything we're feeling and thinking is not trustworthy. And when we end up in an internal conflict like this, it becomes hard to trust ourselves and to also develop the emotional resilience to move forward with challenging life situations. So we want to really step into where and how and why this happens. So in society, there is a label for everything. And it's a label as seen from somebody else's perspective, whether that is the pharmaceutical industry, whether that is the government, whether that is your friend or your neighbor. And so we learn to rely on these labels and these so-called evaluations or judgments about our situation as a guiding light for our own life. So let's say you're dealing with depression because you lost a loved one in your life. Well, this is a very natural feeling and emotion and sensation to have within yourself when you lose somebody. What amplifies the feeling within you is when people tell you that you should not feel that way for more than half a second. I'm kind of making a little bit of a joke of it. But the reality is people will tell you that you should not stay in that feeling zone of grieving somebody for more than 10 days or 20 days or 30 days or 1 year. And the reality is that grief is a very personal process for somebody. So is loss. You might have lost your job, and that in itself causes some grief and anxiety in you. But then what makes it worse is when you hear that you should not be feeling anxious or that you should not be experiencing depression or grief for more than 2 or 3 months because that is a societal standard or label beyond which you're labeled as depressed. So this type of environment where we start to rely on outside factors to judge our own feelings and emotions creates a discord and conflict within us. So what we want to get in the habit of doing, if we really don't want to end up in suffering, we need to understand the value that exists in both positive and negative experiences. We value positive experiences because they make us feel good temporarily. But even if you notice your positive experience, it is not something that allows you to feel good on a permanent basis. It is a temporal experience. Similarly, your negative experience is also meant to be a temporal experience. But what happens with a lot of us is we resist the negative experience. Therefore, it hangs out much longer than it really would hang out if it were left alone and dealt with as a regular feeling, sensation, and emotion that being human brings to you. When we take on the attitude of accepting and acknowledging every one of our feelings, whether it's positive or negative in nature, and the resistance is going to be mainly to the negative feelings. But what I am going to tell you is that when we keep on relying on this sense of feeling positive all the time, we're going to be faced with a rejection of our so-called negative experiences. And it is this rejection that keeps us in the cycle of our suffering. Therefore, what we must do is to get in the habit of touching our sensations, of touching our thoughts, of touching our feelings. That could be maybe physically with our hand on the heart or wherever we're feeling the sensation, or it could just be a sense that you are touching your feeling and going deeper into your feeling and emotion that you're feeling as a result of a loss. And when you can do that, you start to honor how you are feeling. You start to trust your feelings and your emotions. And when you can allow your emotions and feelings to hang out with you, and when you can accept them, now you don't give them the power anymore. Because you are acknowledging them, they lose their hold on you. And the balance of the complementary opposite feelings. So if you're feeling miserable, then the feeling of elation will be the opposite of that. If you're toggling between these two, it's because you are in denial about your negative experience. So the invitation is for you to accept both the positive and the negative, and mind the negative, because when you mind the negative and go deeper into the negative, you're going to bring out the gifts of that negative feeling just as much as you bring out the gifts of the positive feeling when you experience it. And when you can start to consistently honor both sides, the positive and the negative, you can truly come into realize that those are temporal experiences. And when you can come out of the temporal nature of your experiences, you can get present in reality. And reality is amazing because reality does not lie. It is the only truth you will know in this lifetime. The hardcore reality of where you are. So anytime you try to twist something negative to a positive, you're running from reality. Anytime you're trying to attach negative to something positive, you are running from reality. Instead, the invitation is for you to stay in reality, to experience the pain, the misery, and the elation and joy of reality, so you realize that both are temporal experiences. Now, from this space, you are way more objective, you're more rational, you're unbiased, and most importantly, you are inspired and focused in your life. Now, life can throw 100 curveballs, and you are ready to face them with an open mind, with an open heart. And this is the gift of living in reality as opposed to living in a fantasy or in a phobia. Because both of those states only lead to you not experiencing your soul in its unconditional state, which is the state of love. Have a good day.